So then guys, today we're pitting two absolute monsters against each other. On one side here, I have the HP Omen Max 16, rocking Intel's Ultra 9 275HX, and most importantly here, Nvidia's RTX 5080 inside of this. But then on the other, what I have right here is Apple's MacBook Pro 16-inch M4 Max with a 14-core CPU and 32-core GPU. And both of these I would class as premium laptops. Now, the Omen Max comes in at $3,299 and the baseline M4 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch starts at $3,499. So which one actually is the better deal here for gaming, editing, and real-world power? Let's find out. So to start with, the Omen Max 16-inch is all about raw upgradable power. It's got Intel's 24-core Ultra 9 275HX, and like I said, it's got Nvidia's RTX 5080 with 16 gigabytes of DDR7 RAM for that. You get a 16-inch 240Hz display, and you can get a resolution of 2560 by 1600, and HP's Unleash mode that lets it pull serious wattage when it's plugged in. It's bold, it's loud, especially when the fans were up, and it's built to go all out. Whilst the MacBook Pro, what we have here with the M4 Max, is Apple's take on refined performance. Okay, this is not the top end M4 Max. You can get an extra couple more CPU cores and GPU cores inside of it. This one I have right here is the 14-core CPU, the 30-core GPU, and 36 gigabytes of unified memory. And Apple have managed to keep it cool and quiet, even still under pressure. It's thinner, lighter, and that XDR display still makes other screens look washed out. Now, with benchmarks, even if I did say a Geekbench score right here, you can see that the Ultra 9, what we're getting here is around about 3,000 or so in single core performance and around about 19,000, just over that, in multi-core performance, whilst Apple's M4 Max, that does push the boundary of 4,000 in single core and 23,000 in multi-core, and that gives the MacBook a small but steady edge here, especially for multi-threaded workloads. But what I would say is one big advantage with the MacBook Pro is that even if when you pull out the power out of this, it can still perform exactly the same even if it was plugged in. What is absolutely amazing what Apple have managed to achieve here. Whereas with the Omen, you can't really do that unless you actually start fiddling around with some settings, and then your battery life is just going to go kaput really, really quickly here. So what we're going to say is the MacBook Pro here definitely has the edge in efficiencies and also gives a far smoother experience no matter where you are. Whereas with the Omen, if you've got it docked at home, you can actually get some serious power out of this. But when you take it out and about, you do lose some of that performance. And if you were to do, say, video editing on these machines, let's say you're doing Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve, this is where the numbers matter. The MacBook Pro M4 Max tears through an 4K export in around 1 minute and 18 seconds, and the Omen Max sits around about closer to 1 minute 50. And then also you've got things like GPU acceleration with this HP Omen, and you've also got this plugged in. So this is what the performance you are getting there. But with the actual M4 Max, you can get the exact same amount of export time even if you were on battery or if you were plugged in, whereas the Omen, you'd get far less from it. You do actually have to plug this in to get that great performance for video exporting. One of the big advantages that Apple obviously has here is that obviously we have the ProRes and the HEVC kind of media engines built into this. So this is extremely efficient even on that battery life. But like I said, the Omen is still really, really powerful here, but you do have to have it plugged in. But if you were to switch the scenarios now, let's say we talked about gaming, for example, this is where things get quite interesting. So let's say Cyberpunk 2077, what now runs natively on macOS. On the MacBook Pro, here with the M4 Max at a resolution of 2560 by 16 Ultra, with no ray tracing and no metal FX, it averages around about 41 frames per second. Obviously, if you turn on metal FX, upscaling, Apple's answer to DLS, and that jumps to around about 61 frames per second. And then after this, if you add in frame generation and motion smoothness, well, guess what? You could even push this up to 120 frames per second, the maximum about the refresh rate we can get out of this. And that is really good for a Mac here. But like I said, on the Omen Max 16, when you've got a dedicated graphics card built from the ground up for gaming, this is where things change quite a bit. And what you can actually get here, what is crazy, is that you can actually get around about 143 frames per second at the same kind of resolution there as the MacBook Pro, and yet you can also still turn on things like ray tracing, and obviously, you can turn on frame generation with DLS on, and yet it can still also perform super well here. And in fact, you can still even achieve over 100 frames per second with this Omen. So straight off the bat there, obviously for gaming, and no surprise here, being this is a gaming laptop, this actually wins hands down over the MacBook Pro. But the MacBook Pro, what I still would say, has done an excellent job here, even though it's not officially designed for gaming. Now, as I mentioned with the gaming, we actually got over that 140 frames per second, but the good news is if you weren't actually using such a hardcore game like Cyberpunk with all of those things switched on, or even playing at, say, at 4K or anything like that, well, the good thing is that you actually got a 240 hertz display refresh rate here, what is a dream for gamers, and also for creators who love a fast screen. Now, the MacBook Pro, what we have here is the mini LED XDR display, and it's still king for color accuracy and HDR grading. So this is really, really great, but you still get only 120 hertz refresh rate with this one. Then also if we move on to ports, the Omen has HDMI 2.1, Ethernet, and a USB-A port, while the Mac leans more towards Thunderbolt 5, has MagSafe and an SD slot, but it does also have HDMI, but obviously there are more ports available on the Omen. Now, like I mentioned, with these machines under pressure, well, you get a different scenario there too. So right now, even doing this recording right now, I cannot hear a single thing coming from the MacBook Pro. But with the Omen, I can actually just about hear the fans just whirring. Yeah, I'm just sitting on the desktop running nothing on this, and yet it still needs the fans to spin around for that. So that means that the Omen is getting heat here where it still needs to be cooled down by the fans, and that obviously would drain the battery. And talk about battery life, this again is where the MacBook Pro can actually pull out right in front here. So we can get 20 hours of light use. So with that then we can still export 4Ks without breaking a sweat here, and yet still get great battery life with it. Whereas the Omen Max 16-inch with its fans whirring and things like this, well, unfortunately, if you were just to do those light kind of tasks with it, similar to what I was saying about the MacBook Pro, well, you're only going to get around about 5.5 hours battery. That's only about 25% of the battery of what the MacBook Pro 16-inch can give us here. But overall, what we've got here is two completely different machines. And I know some of you guys in the comments probably say, why are you even comparing this? But at the end of the day, that's what you guys want to see. You want to see the likes of a 5080 versus a MacBook Pro. And what's the differences that you're going to get there? Because at the end of the day, like I said, the prices, like I said at the beginning, are very similar between both these. But what I would say is, both of them have a different angle, what they're completely designed for. This here is completely designed for gaming. It's a gaming laptop, but it's quite capable of doing video editing at your desk, not so much on the go. It could do it on the go, but your battery would drain down quickly. Whereas this machine right here, this one is fully designed for, say, video editing, media editing, you name it, but it can play games, but obviously it's not fully designed for that. It's literally the opposite for each other. So this is what I'm going to say to you guys. If you are a person who loves gaming more than you actually love creating media, or let's say if you ran, say, a YouTube channel and you were a gamer, I would say you'd be buying this machine and editing off this as well. Whereas if you're the other way around, if you're just going to play some games on the go here and there, not too bothered about getting the best frames per second, but yet you still just want to get through the game, but most of the time you're actually doing media editing, this machine is more designed for you here. But on that note as well, then guys, what do you think? Do you think the Omen here is still a great device for what you're getting, especially that it's also a little bit cheaper than the MacBook Pro? Or do you think the MacBook Pro just wins hands down here? Let me know in the comments below. And with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video too. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. As always, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews, and comparisons, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.